and welcome to Sports Talk. I'm Phil Hill. This month we're going to review the recently completed winter sports scene at East Brunswick High School. And as always, we're pleased to have the Supervisor of Athletics for East Brunswick Schools, Frank Noppenberger. Frank, once again, welcome to Sports Talk.
Thank you, Phil. It's a pleasure to be here. It's my pleasure. And before we get started, Phil, I'd like to present you with a little token of our appreciation. Everyone appreciates that you, Gordy, and of course Jimmy Allender donate your time. So what we have for you is, there's a limited edition of these. This is a GMC basketball tourney champion shirt.
Wow.
And there's only a few of those. East Brunswick and Saraville were the only ones that get them this year.
I am honored.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am truly honored.
And I will take care of Gordy and Jimmy later.
Okay. Let's get right into things if we can.
Certainly.
Let's talk about basketball. Let's talk about Bo Henning and that truly surprising Bear basketball team. And let's be honest, Frank, you're a former coach, former county champ and everything, and so you know this team coming in this year, if anyone told you that they would be 21-5, what would you have said?
I would have said, I don't think so, until I spoke to Bo. And Bo is a great judge of talent after 20 years of coaching. And after the summer camp, what he told me was it depends on Max. And Max had a great summer, and we'll go as far as Max can take us. And he felt that was the key, but he said, we're going to be good, we're going to surprise people. And sure enough, you know, after the Christmas tournament, we had a couple tough losses. I'm sure there were some people wondering. But they played well in the tournament, and Bo never lost confidence in the kids, and he knew we'd be good. So I wasn't really surprised, because Bo, he and Reggie are great at predicting what kind of season they're going to have.
Still, you talk about Max Johnson, who I thought had a great year. Of course, Bobby Henning, I think maybe the best point guard in the county. Just a tremendous ball handler and could dish it out as well. And then you had the I keep calling him the transfer, but Brett Cadet, who complemented this team very well, came up with some big baskets to win numerous games, and the blend itself. Then you had the role players. Borak, who was just so strong coming off the bench, and Schuler and Zachary. This was truly a team.
Impressed, did a good job.
And
too.
Larry Press.
Well, you see, I think they had a great combination. You pointed out that Bobby was a great point guard in every sense of the word. People say he reminds me of Bobby Hurley, and you know, I'm not sure, he does to me too. He's that good, and he's a very heady player. So he could penetrate, he could dish. Then you had Max, who could hit the three and be tough inside. You had McBride on the outside. If you let him alone, he would spot up and you would hit him. The missing ingredient, as you pointed out, was a slasher, someone who could create.
Right.
And that's when Brett became eligible. And then that's where we took the game to another level, because they had to defend Brett because he could penetrate. And then when Max and Press were in there at the same time, it was really tough to defend. So it was a great team chemistry. It was wasn't an exciting team to watch.
It is an exciting team, and I guess the thing is, if you're in high school sports, to have the opportunity to write the last chapter of dealing with teams in the area. Saraville, who took the county tournament, and the Bears clearly felt they were a better team. And then in Group 4, to get an opportunity to play them again, to write the final chapter, I don't think Bo believed it when he found out that Saraville beat Trenton, and they were going to meet again.
Yeah, well, that's what they wanted. And, you know, I thought we played very well, and we could have won. We could have beaten Bridgewater. A couple kids got in foul trouble early, but, you know, two other highlights I'd like to get to you is that the boys, Bo was Coach of the Year, Max was All-Conference, Bobby was All-Conference, but what I'm most proud of is that the boys were voted again outstanding sportsmanship by the conference, the boys basketball team, for their conduct on the court and related to the court. And the other thing I'd mention is the JV team under Mark Monteseschi had an outstanding year with 4 freshmen playing on it. So I think we're going to be pretty good again next year. Talking to Bo about next year, Bose thinks that we're going to be the type of team that we could run a lot of sets and we could run a lot of plays, and we'll control the ball. So he's confident about next year also.
Okay. Frank, I really want to talk to you a little bit about sportsmanship. I know how important it is to you as an athletic director, and it is quite an honor that the boys won the Sportsmanship Award. But I want to talk a little bit, if we have time later, about sportsmanship in general, the involvement of the student body, if we have time.
Boy, was that a shock. I know you better than people think.
Okay.
Certainly, I'd be glad to.
Okay, boys winter track. Kevin McAvoy and his troops, of course, a 4-2 record, a good record.
We had a very good team for winter track. The kids played well. They were competitive. We had some outstanding performances. Kevin O'Reilly at the Tournament of Champions, and that's all the groups together. He was leading his heat, and someone cut him off, and he stumbled and fell down, just like Mary Decker in the Olympics way back, and he just could never regroup. And that was that was a real highlight of the season. It was unfortunate that that's the way it ended for Kevin, but he did a great job. Brian Donovan did a good job for us. Mike Siebel was a shot put champion.
Nice kid.
He came out of nowhere.
Right.
And Teddy Nemec broke a lot of school records this year in the dash, and we look forward to Teddy having another good year in the spring. So very satisfying year for the boys and Coach McAvoy.
A kid like Teddy Nemec, who's just strong, I think his best years are ahead of him. I think on the college level, you're going to hear about him doing some good things.
Yeah, I think this year he came into his own. I think he was a lot more confident in everything he does this year. Seeing him walking down the hall, not with a swagger, but he's a lot more confident than I've ever seen him.
Okay. I want to get cheerleading in there. Is that Cindy Adams?
That's Lynn Adams.
Lynn Adams.
Cindy Adams is an actor.
Okay.
Actress? I don't know.
The cheerleaders, once again, Frank, and we're putting them in now so we don't forget about them, have done an outstanding job. And once again, when you get to the counties and you go to some of these other places, and the state people are coming in, they're there involved, sincerely watching our cheerleaders, and you hear the comments. Wow, they're good. Wow, they're organized.
I couldn't say it better myself. I get a lot of compliments on our cheerleaders, and it's unfortunate that they don't get to hear them. They hear me tell them, they hear me tell the coach, but a lot of schools are very impressed. The ADs will say, boy, my coach saw your kids and was really impressed and like to talk to the coach and see the things we do. And I think once we got the guys involved, that added to the program. It just adds to the whole atmosphere of a basketball game. We can cheer, we can dance, we build with the boys. The boys I thought were outstanding. New uniforms, they look very professional, and that added to it. But the credit goes to the coaches and the kids. They really take it seriously. They want to be cheerleaders. We have tryouts, we have cuts. It's not that everyone makes it. So it's become a very important part of our athletic program, and I appreciate you recognizing that.
And the thing is, they can move on. One of the boy cheerleaders, Adam Greenhut, is a cheerleader for Rutgers. I go over there, and he's out on the court doing his thing there. Right. So you can move up.
Absolutely, and we have two of our captains, if I may, Brittany Morrison and Tiffany Shanape, did a great job for us this year. Again, they don't have the all-conference teams and everything, but certainly I think they great leadership from those two. As a matter of fact, Phil, I spoke to the athletic director from Old Bridge about 4 or 5 years ago. You and I sat here and I talked about getting the conference to recognize a competition and for cheerleading. Well, it was defeated at that time. Well, now there's an interest again. So in a short time, there may be some sort of a conference championship for cheerleading.
That's interesting, considering that on the Pop Warner levels, there's all sorts of competitions going on.
And I think the time to do it is, that's the trick, when to do it. And I guess it would have to be like right after the winter season, because you can't do it fall and winter because they're involved. Okay. A lot of schools have two types of cheerleaders. They have, and I'm sure you noticed, they have competition cheerleaders that do nothing but work out for competitions. Okay. And they've got game cheerleaders that do the cheering at the games, which we have. So we got to get them both on the same season.
Okay. Let's, Brian Merrigan and, of course, girls went to track, a 5-3 record, very successful season as well.
Yeah, last night at the Churchill Sports Awards, which was very well attended by the parents and the student athletes, Brian made the statement that he wasn't sure if his season was that successful. As you said, we were 5-3. The losses, now he doesn't say this, but I say it, were to the best teams in the conference, which we want to be those best teams, and I'm not making excuses for the losses. But he said we were pretty successful. We had 60 kids involved in winter track, over 60 kids. And that's important. Winter track is a sport that if you want to participate in the sport, you can be there. If you're not a good runner, maybe you could do the weights. If you're not a runner weights, maybe you can do the jump, you know, the high jump. So there's something for you out there, and it has kids involved. And it's very difficult to be involved in winter track, to be out there running when it's 20 degrees and everyone's home, sitting watching TV or practicing inside. But very happy with our girls' performances this year. Like I said, over 60 kids involved. Amy Stanislawski, who was our high jumper, had a good year. Kim Pasva had a super year. And then Zena Hazori, I think that's how you pronounce her name, a great runner for us. I think in the spring, it'll show dividends from the work that the kids did in this winter.
Okay, good. And we move on to boys bowling, Coach Elias.
Coach Elias, second-year coach with us, very organized, very stern coach, and loves bowling, very enthusiastic. As much as those other coaches, like Coach Borden's in my office every day talking about football, Coach Elias is in there, you know, and I really enjoy that. The boys qualified for the state. They took a 5th in the conference. They were close to getting to that Final Four or the finals of the conference. They just couldn't get over the hump. But they had a very good year, the boys.
9, 6, and 3. How do you tie in bowling?
With bowling is you bowl 3 games.
Right.
I win the first one, you win the second one, I win the third, but you have the total number of pins.
So the total number of pins is another win, so to speak, so therefore a tie.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think? The bowling
I
alley?
didn't know. I thought maybe each of them had 567 pins, and therefore there was a tie. I don't know.
Next year, you know what we're going to do? You and I, and I'll drive. We're going to go to a bowling match.
Okay.
Have you ever been there?
I used to bowl.
They're exciting. High school bowling is exciting, and you and I mentioned this. If the other team bowls a strike, our teammates high-five them. You won't see that in basketball or soccer if someone scores a goal, but in bowling it's different. And there's a lot of excitement in bowling. And next year we're going to go, so when we're in this talk, you'll be able to appreciate exactly what I'm saying.
It's almost like the band mentality, the great respect band members have for opposing band members. I mean, they cheer, they stand up for them, and everything else. So I understand what you're talking about.
2 kids had an outstanding season for us. Was Eric Sheriffstein and John Colgan had very good seasons for us as bowlers. Next year we should do a little better. We were young this year. I don't know if we'll be at the level of when we had the Hastings boy with us, but certainly we'll do much better next year. Okay.
The girls bowling team was 10-7-1. Question, is that co-ed? Does Coach Elias have to do them separately, or?
2 teams.
2 different
there's
teams.
There's a boys team and then there's a girls team.
Okay.
And it's tough because there are different lanes, and he runs back and forth, and he's got to coach them and talk to them and make corrections and then run back and forth. But bowling is a lot like track and swimming, where you can do a lot by scores. You look at the scores of the team from the newspaper, what they did last week and previous, and you can pretty much figure out what we have to do to bowl. So that way he gets a lot of kids to bowl. We had great senior leadership this year from Cheryl Bennett, who was our captain, and Maria Martino did a good job for us. The highlight for the girls is they did very well in the States, and they also did very well in the conference, was they beat Woodbridge. Woodbridge girls haven't lost a regular season match in years, 6 or 8 years, and we whooped them.
Wow.
And it's one of our highlights.
Okay. I want to move on to wrestling, and surprisingly, Matt Pazinko, his record this year was 7-8. I got to see a match. I thought they were terribly exciting. They had some outstanding wrestlers, which I'm sure you'll talk about.
Well, it was Glenn, but that's
Glenn,
okay. Matt appreciates it. Matt appreciates it.
Well, I'll tell you, Glenn Pazinko, I should remember, Glenn Pazinko was just named to the All-Century team for wrestling.
Right.
And that's quite an honor. I want to congratulate him.
Speaking of that, Reggie was named in the All-Century team for basketball.
Okay.
Mike Palumbi, remember Mike Palumbi?
Yes, Mike.
All-Century team for basketball in the 40s.
Wow.
And you and I, because I checked, we were the next
In line.
for the honorable mention. I did. I checked that out.
Okay.
We were next in line.
But Pazinko's wrestling team.
Yeah, great, exciting matches against Edison, Woodbridge, and Perth. We had we had 8 kids qualify for the regions. And when you think about that, so well, yeah, but 7 of them were underclassmen. The only senior was Tom Corio, who ended up taking a 7th in the state. He'll be in our record books for a while, Tom Corio. He had a great season.
A good one.
A very fluid wrestler. And I think he's got his best days ahead of him as a wrestler. Hopefully he'll continue to wrestle in college. And I think you can read about him if he stays with it, because he's that talented. But if I may, and I wrote a little list down of the wrestlers that qualified for the states. We have Keith Richings, who's a sophomore, qualified for the regions, as I told you. He was a region champ. We had Nick Yanazzo. We had Blackborough, who's also a junior. Nick is a junior. We had John Clay, who's a freshman.
Wow.
We had Tom Corio, who I mentioned. James Gagnon, you know Jimmy from football, he's a junior. We had Fleischhauser's also a junior, Adam. And then Dennis Bruno had a great year for us. I believe he's district champ, and he also qualified at heavyweight. So we've got a great nucleus coming back, and we have some young freshmen and 8th graders that could impact the program next year. The coaches are a hard-working bunch, and we're gonna be back on top within a year or so. The way South Plainfield and Old Bridge have been. I'm that confident in the kids and the dedication, and the parent group is behind them 100%.
Super. Reggie Carney and the girls basketball team, an unbelievable 22-5. You got to remember, this is a team that lost 2 All-Staters, Kohler and
O'Neill.
Megan. And a bunch of talented other players as well. And I think everybody thought that this would be the year to get East Brunswick girls basketball team, and they just had a sensational season.
Well, Reggie's comment to me all year was, with his smirk, was they better get us this year. They better get us this year.
Wow.
But, and you know, Reggie pointed out to me a couple of times, and certainly not in a bragging way, he says, you know, Frank, who's got experience out there? I mean, Melissa Duda was a senior that showed a lot of poise and came on the end of the year, but she didn't have a lot of playing experience on the varsity level. Laura and Genevieve didn't have a lot of experience. They're your seniors.
Right.
Our seniors, the other senior, of course, was Jesse, who ended up being our all-time leading scorer, loads of experience, and of course Liz Whalen. But Liz and Jesse were hurt the whole year. And we were very, very young. Look at the kids who were playing. Yeah, some of them earned letters last year, but they didn't have that quality varsity time. Someone that's going to lead you to a division championship, undefeated in the division, 3 years in a row.
Right.
I mean, a lot of pressure on these young kids, and they came through. And then to win the conference title like they did, I thought they just dominated. It's a credit to Reggie and the hard work the kids, hardest working bunch, as hard as anyone I've ever seen.
I hear you.
I see their practices all the time, and they're so focused, and Reggie's got them so focused on what they have to do. Play to your strength and work on your weakness. I mean, you just see them doing that in practice. And the kids throughout the whole year played within themselves. Now next year, I think we're going to be better.
They're going to be a faster team. I think minus Jess Leszewski, with all she does, nobody's as skilled as she is, but minus her, they're going to be a faster team. Heather O'Reilly, the super freshman, and Maura Kirby's going to get stronger, and Erin Kenny is going to get stronger as well. And then they got a bunch of younger players coming up again.
It's a very good sophomore class, and Ashley Stapleton.
Ashley Stapleton.
Who in the beginning of the year, she's a 3-sporter, She still had those wrestling legs, and it took her a while because she's a great softball player too. It took her half the year to get back into that basketball, and then near the end of the year, as you saw, middle to the end, she played very well. So we won't surprise anyone next year. We certainly surprised a few people this year. As a matter of fact, we're working on our schedule for the next 2 cycles, and not many people are jumping out to play the Bear.
I see.
And it's difficult at times because why do they want to play East Brunswick and, you know, just chalk up a W? It's difficult. We're struggling to fulfill the schedule
Well,
now.
then Reggie, on the other hand, goes in certain situations knowing that the teams that he schedules or you schedule certainly may be a W for the other team. You mentioned Petty and some of these other schools, and he's just not going to run away from anybody. He wants his team the experience playing against the best.
Well, we can't. To be the best, you got to beat the best. And if we were to shy from them, then we would be doing just what other teams do to us occasionally. And you know what, Phil? It's only a basketball game. If we lose the game, you know, regular season, so you learn from it. It's just a game. Next year, you'll forget who you lost. And the ultimate goal is near the end of the year anyway.
Okay. Girls swimming, Coach Myers, they were 6-6.
They were 6-6. They qualified for the state. They had a great season. In the state tournament, they beat Hunterdon Central, and they advanced to the next level, and they went against Bridgewater, and they came up a little short. But it was the first time in a long time that our girls qualified for the states in swimming. Congratulations to Coach Eric Meyer and Pellegrino. They just did a great job with the girls. 3 outstanding girls was Deborah Shiner, Patricia Kirby, sister of the basketball Kirby, who's a great in the 100 fly, and Christine Larkin, who did a super job for us. And girls swimming, we took a 3rd in the conference. To beat Bishop Bar in swimming is difficult for whatever reason. We finished just where we thought we would this year. Next year, I think we could be 2nd or challenge for 1st.
Okay, great. And the boys swimming team 8-3 with Coach Pellegrino. And I just want to say about him, not only a classy individual, great humility, and a winner.
Right.
And that combination you don't find very often.
Pell is probably the most winningest coach in East Brunswick history, if you think about it. Coached more sports than anyone. When I was coaching basketball, he was the 8th grade coach. He taught Mark Harmon and all those kids how to play basketball.
I see.
Well, maybe he didn't teach them how to play. But before we go to boys swimming and talk about some of their players like Kyle King, diving in the state and in the conference, you know, swimming and diving, there's not a lot of that going on, be it because of liability, coaches, safe situations to dive in. But the conference and the state does have tournaments, and we enter them. And 2 of our kids were conference champs, Kerry Sweeney for the girls, and Joseph Gallner, I believe that's the way it's pronounced, was the diving champ for the boys. Matter of fact, they both also went to the states, and Joe took a 13th in the state. And I just want to mention them because although there is no team diving, schools like they did in boys gymnastics years ago, they allow them to enter as individuals. But the boys swimming team, they qualify for the states. They beat Hunterdon Central in the regular season and then lost to them in the states. It came down to the last kid in the last race. And I don't want to mention names, who it was, because that's not why they lost. I'm just pointing out that that's how close it was and exciting. But Kyle King is a young swimmer who's going to be very good for us. Chris Martinetti's another young one. Mark Manone and Sean Batia. Pelly's very excited about these young kids. And swimmers do it all year round. And they know that. And he knows that these kids are just going to get better, and maybe one of them will be a state champ. Who knows? But Pelly was very happy with them. Very pleased, and they also won the Sportsmanship Award as voted by the coaches.
Okay, that's super.
Yeah. Before we go to the next group, I know you've got a lot of questions. You want to zing me.
There's no more groups, but
the trainers. Phil Hostler's group.
Okay.
As you know, people are wondering, well, who are these kids and what are they? Well, they're student trainers, student athletic trainers, and they're involved with the team all year round. And sometimes we take things for granted, like people sometimes take you for granted. Well, Phil will be here to do the TV game, but people forget that Phil's got to leave work and not go home and whatever. But these young people did a great job with our teams. There was Lee Rice, there was Scott Reese, Megan Courtwright. The later two worked with the wrestling team. And of course, you saw Lee was with the girls basketball. And with the boys, we had Tony Christensen and Carla Perdillo. And I just had to mention their name and let them know that they are appreciated by the coaches and certainly by me.
I've already said during the season that if there was an all-county team for trainers, Lee Weiss would certainly be an all-county participant. I've watched them firsthand with not only basketball but football as well. Frank, we're just about out of time, but I do want to get back to that sportsmanship piece. I named the Wild Bunch, and maybe that's wrong. Maybe I should name them the Enthusiastic Bunch. And from my point of view, they're a bunch of good kids that basically really enthusiastically support support all the teams and whatnot. And yet, on the other hand, as athletic director, you have to sometimes be tough because there are certain rules. Will you talk about that? We have about 1 minute.
Yeah, they're great kids. They're all great kids, and I like them all, and I've spoken to them all individually and as a group. The bottom line is, when we're cheering, when they go into that defensive chant, you could see that our defense comes up a level. It's great. We get everyone involved. It's when they make it personal to the referee or the other players. And you can't do that, and you can't be vulgar, and you can't make it personal because then the other school gets offended. And I encourage them, and we're going to try to meet as a group next year with the kids to, not teach them how to cheer, but hey, this is what's acceptable. Would you want your son out there being made fun of, maybe because the color of his hair or being small, big, overweight?
I understand.
And you can't make it personal. But yes, I do appreciate them. The coaches appreciate them. It's just that we can't make it personal to the official and or the other players.
Okay. I just want to get the last word on this. As one who does travel around the state and see different games, whether they're north and south, it's still my view that they're probably as well behaved a group as you're going to find at any school. Some of the schools and some of the nearby schools, as you know, they can be brutal, and they do make it personal. I think outside of the BS word, these kids are pretty much controlled.
Well, yeah, they got better as the year went on, and but maybe we're the leader. We want everyone to see the way it's supposed to be done, that it can be done correctly by cheering positively. Here's my motto: cheer for our team, not against the other team.
And that's a good motto, Frank.
Thanks.
Once again, Frank, we want to thank you for being with us, and we look forward to you for the spring review.
Thank you.
Okay, for Frank Noppenberger, I'm Phil Hill saying join us next time.